Welcome to On the Spectrum. I'm your host, Terri Matthews, and this is the show where we inform you, entertain you, and yes, educate you about all things autism. We like to call it prescription TV. Joining me today on Let's Talks is my good friend Khylil Robinson, who is a student enrolled at Temple University, a self-advocate, and yeah, he's diagnosed with autism. But we're going to talk a little bit about what diagnosis means and how he's living his life as an individual in the party scene as a young man with autism.
Yes.
You can laugh. You can laugh. It is okay.
Oh, indeed. Yes, this place looks so awesome. Yes, it is definitely good to be here. How are you doing, Miss Terri?
I am doing so well. And you know what? I'm so glad that the audience is getting an opportunity, because before we even get into the interview, I want to say to you, thank you so much for all that you continue to do in the community.
Sure.
Not only advocating for yourself, but others. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your diagnosis. When were you diagnosed with autism?
All right,
Khylil?
so I think I was diagnosed around 2, but I didn't really pick up on it until I was 6 going into 12 years old. Because it was that thing that's floating around. Oh, I'm in regular classes, I thought, but instead it was called AS classes. And I'm like, what does AS stand for? And I talked to my mom about that, and she was like, it stands for autism support. So therefore, even though it may not look like, you correlate with other, regular ed children, you actually have something unique that others have.
Well, that something unique. So let me say this, because I know your mom. She's an awesome advocate, a great friend.
Yes, she is.
And has been just such a champion when it comes to autism and the families that are diagnosed with autism. What was it like for you being in school? Once you knew that you were autistic, how did you explain yourself to other kids? How did you fit in?
Well, since when I first learned about it, everybody else in my class also had autism, and I was not autism, but it was a various spec of disabilities, and I wasn't really, and I didn't really know how to explain that to others, but I'm once I was fully aware of it, started doing my own self-studying and whatever, I did it so much that when I try to explain it to people, the first thing they say is, "Wow, really? You have that? That's you?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, that's me. Can't even tell. That's kind of odd."
Now, if I remember this, if I remember this correctly, you weren't always verbal, right?
Yes, I wasn't. Yes, I wasn't always verbal. In fact, I'm actually I was a pretty silent kind of guy. I didn't really like to get around that much. And I was only comfortable around talking 1 to 2 people that I knew for a pretty long time. Even in high school, I think that's when it really started to kick in, the maturity, the fact that people kind of notice that, oh yeah, you're speaking with your hand over your mouth. It's kind of how do we treat that? Do we just dart at them and say, oh, okay, that's kind of that's kind of unusual, or no, just pick at them for a bit. It was a mixture of both. Some people did get it, some people didn't get it, and I, being the person who was personally doing it, didn't really get that from both sides of the board, because I'm just trying to understand myself, I guess.
Was it hard, would you say, as a kid growing up around other kids, that didn't understand autism? Do you feel like you were bullied at all? How did you deal with stuff like that?
Well,
you have a pretty strong mom, and
yes.
You have a great personality, and you've grown to be a strong young man. But
in elementary school, middle school, I didn't really catch on to it. But in high school, when I started to catch on it a little bit, at one point, I didn't really know how to respond back to it. I never really talked to my mom about it. But when it did start to hit me, I'm like, okay, I do know how to come back. But at that point, that's when all the other complicated stuff started coming in. I just started getting good at math. I started getting good at overdoing all of my responses on certain readings and whatever. And the very moment I started asking my mom for help, it's too late. I already became an Einstein.
Well, let me just say this, because you definitely are not Einstein. That brings me to my next question. Do you feel like autism has limited you at all?
Actually, No, it actually no, it hasn't. So just as my mom told me as when I first learned about my autism or ability, well, you see, we don't call it disability, we call it an ability because it's part of you. It's like it's like Superman. I don't know, like that one part on Superman Returns where Clark Kent was like trying to be like really, really nice towards others, and even if someone did bully him, yo, Khylil, somebody hit you, hit them back. Or if somebody says something like, mean, try to say something mean back. And I mean, like, I would always like resist into doing stuff like that because I just felt as though it wasn't really like me for real to actually like do that because I'm like, I was already terrible with words at the moment. But when I started to mature and I tried to break out of tried to like break out of like start speaking for myself and all that. I guess like some people did like get it, but for the most part I just like push it to the side, not think about it that much, and results usually like wound up being good, so didn't really like have a problem with it.
Khylil, you know what, if there was one thing you wanted people to understand about autism from your perspective, what would that be? Like, what would you want the world to actually know? And that's okay, use your phone.
Right. Well, yeah, that's because I'm like, anyway, like I kind of.
It's that structure. Are you still structured? Do you still utilize the schedule? I know you still carry a backpack.
Yes, I
and
still
you're
carry.
How old now?
Yes, I'm 24 years old, and I'll be rocking out with a backpack. All right, you know what?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, and yeah, like like and casually I get called the backpack kid, but sometimes I got like comic books and cartoons and video games and stuff in there. So of course, I gotta embrace the little kid in there in my spare time.
That's right.
And whatnot.
That's right.
So if I gotta rock out with the school bag, then I gotta rock out with the school bag. It'd be like that.
Well, I want the audience to know, especially because we have people who are watching who have autistic children or autistic relatives.
Right.
But we also have people in the community that are working with people with autism or just trying to understand autism that have never been exposed to people that are autistic. We even have employers that are hiring autistic individuals.
Oh, okay.
What do you want people to know, if anything, about autism from your perspective? What should we not put myths out there about you?
All right, so yeah, one thing like most shouldn't really like put myths out there is, well, I remember like before I was born, doctor said I wouldn't be able to walk, I wouldn't be able to talk, and that I wouldn't be able to communicate with others. And well, as you can see, 24 years passed, and I mean,
you're pretty much communicating.
Yeah, look at that. It's pretty ironic. So, yeah. So everybody in their own kind of way is very, very unique, whether it's the way that they live, whether it's their talents, or just their lifestyle in general. There's a wide array of people who are very talented at so many things, and then they may not even figure that out at the get-go. I mean, shoot, I did so many things going from middle school on to high school that I can barely even think of it out of my head, whether it comes from video gaming, typing, playing the viola, going into like doing percussion instruments, just reading music in general, and just straight up doing math. It's a wide variety on my end. And even like, on a child's end, just be patient with them. Like, if they...
That's good information.
Right. So like, on the parents' end, you don't want to like force somebody to like go outside if their comfort zone is possibly like their room or like sitting on like a certain spot of the table or whatever. Just let them just be there for a minute or so.
So kind of sort of like what we saw, with Jaden. I mean, oftentimes, his room is his area. He doesn't want you to touch it.
Right.
I'm super organized and monochromatic and everything has to be structured. I'm like OCD on 10. And he's like, Mom, things can be random. Everything doesn't have to match. I don't want an all-themed car room. I might want Pokemon, Frozen Princess, whatever. So it's important to allow, what I hear you saying is, allow you to be who you are and expose you to as much as you possibly can because there are no limits.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes. Big facts. My mom goes through that too. Sometimes she'll be like, "All right, I mean, even like yesterday, oh man, yo, Khylil, we want you to go all men in blacked out. You know, we want you to wear on like black dress pants, black jacket, white shirt, tie, and come in with the alien thing and start giving everybody amnesia after this joint." I'm just kidding, but yes. And I was like, you know what? Let me just be comfortable. You know, I wanted like represent. Wear on the on the spectrum shirt and just like a t-shirt, suit jacket, and all that, and just see how that works out. Wanted to have like a more comfortable theme. I didn't want to like go in there like I was doing like a 3-piece job interview or whatever.
I
So
understand.
so it's stuff like that that's not just grown immediately. It takes time. Because, I mean, I don't think I would have been able to say that if I was like younger in high school, middle school. I would have probably like accepted that because I'm like, I don't know what myself defined is.
Oh, that's a good point. You know what? I think we as parents, especially when we are trying to teach our children and we're given all of these opportunities to learn from therapists, and we try to increase our skill set so that we can transfer that skill set to our kids, and we create these rigid environments, right? We have to have this schedule, and we have to talk about your day, and you have to
Right.
eat at a certain time, you have to do schoolwork at a certain time, we want to dress you at a certain time, we want you to be in certain things at a certain time. But it sounds like what I hear you saying is, let us just be who we are, right?
Right.
And let us be comfortable with who we are, because that's how we express ourselves, even if we don't
Right.
have a lot of language,
Right.
right? Even if there's not a whole lot of language, this helps you express yourself and you feel comfortable. Now, I want to ask you something,
Oh, sure,
because
go
I
for
think
it.
it's important for our viewers out there to know you're an inspiration, especially for a mom like me who had a kid who was
Right.
nonverbal,
Right.
and you're in college. Tell me, what is that? So you went to a junior college and transferred to a 4-year university.
Right.
How does that work for you? Like being in college, how do you educate people that you're on the spectrum? Have you found it easier in college or harder since high school?
So like, all right, so the junior college part. So when I did community college, it was like at first I didn't know how to like throw it out there. Oh snap, this is the real deal. Never mind, it's 13th grade. So there was like somebody actually, yeah. So I was actually in this group in my community college called the Center on Disability, and in there, I mean, like at first, I was trying to like adjust to the school environment. I was trying to adjust myself, getting used to my classes and taking tests and learning how to manage tutoring hours and whatnot. And then like after that, I shifted over into guiding people who had the same exact disability as mine and showing them around the school and showing them, oh, don't worry, you don't have to be afraid here because, this is either, the beginning or just like a small break for you. This place is pretty easy to explore. The classes aren't, as rough as you think it is. And if you ever need help to go around the school, I have no problem doing that. So transferring out of there to the real deal. I mean, this is my first semester here. So I'm just like, I feel as though that I was able to pick up some of what I learned over there and bring it over there. Just like explaining myself.
Yeah.
It takes time to adjust to, just like the other college.
So I have to ask you this one last question, because I
Sure.
think, one, it's amazing that you're in a university. So you are telling people out there, you have no excuse.
Right.
You have no excuse. So what is it that you plan on doing with this degree? First of all, what degree are you going to get, and what are you going to do with the rest of your life?
All right, so I am going to get myself a communications. I'm actually studying for communications.
Now,
and-
wait, I got to say something. I don't mean to cut you off.
Go for it.
You're autistic.
I'm autistic.
You used to be nonverbal.
Right.
You became verbal, started speaking more in high school, became a self-advocate, went to college, graduated junior college, transferred to a 4-year university, and your degree is communication.
Right. Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm so shocked. All right. So in between me leaving so before I left out of community college, I did a lot of programs involving communications. So back in 2014, all right, this is my mom's least favorite part. We're going on a timeline. We are going on a timeline spree here. She don't like this. Yo, I hate when you go into a whole entire timeline arc. So in 2014, my community college was like, hey, we're going to involve you into this this really cool thing called Project Autism, and in it you get to explain your personal life, and you get to explain all of these projects you were into. And for an event that involved a lot of speaking, I'm going to admit I didn't really say that much. I barely even said anything. So then in 2015, NBC 10, it came out of nowhere, started interviewing me. It was like really awesome. I mean, it was I think I showed up like 3 minutes before the thing actually happened, but I was like, wow, it really boosted up my my communication piece. And then like right after that, I did a speech at City Hall like a couple months afterwards, and that's when I met up with you, and and it was awesome. And then after that, I started blogging. I started doing like speeches at the School District of Philadelphia, and I even did like a couple speeches at community college before I left out. I mean, no, I didn't take the valedictorian piece, but if I did, man, it probably would have been cool. But I just did so much in communications that I had to swap it from math to communications.
Let me tell you this. Number one, again, I know I keep telling you this, but you are definitely an inspiration to so many. You give hope to parents out there everywhere, including me. And so I just want to thank you. And it's you, your mom, your entire family who has been an amazing support to myself and to Jaden, to other families in the community. And I want you to know that you rock. And let me tell you something. For those of you who are not living with any challenges in life, we all got some kind of challenges, but you are sharing and showing through your life as an example. There are no excuses.
Right.
We have no reason at all to say we can't do it.
Right.
You are, I'm just going to take a picture of you, put it up on my vision board and be like, I want to be like Khylil when I grow up. Because you are fearless and you're limitless. And I thank you for that so much. And thank you for being here today.
Right. And also another part I actually want to add on, if that's okay,
Absolutely.
is that, you can't, is that, even if you don't feel comfortable into doing whatever you think you're good at the get-go. I mean, like, again, I did like a lot of stuff. It was hard for me to actually figure out what my niche was. Don't do it immediately. Do it, if you can't do it today, do it later on. There's the whole, like, everything in your life is forward, it's going to be good, and you're going to be okay.
So in other words, if you have some kind of gift or talent or skill set, or you're not sure, just try a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, experiment.
Is there a right or wrong in experimenting?
There is no right or wrong, because, I mean, everybody is unique at something.
Absolutely. And what would you say to anybody out there who's autistic and having to grow up in any kind of challenges? What kind of words of encouragement would you have for them?
That, there's not there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with your disability or your ability. It's part of you, and it's a very, very beautiful thing. And there's some people that's going to actually take a hard time in understanding that. But that's how life is. Life will be hard day after day. You wake up, you don't feel the intent to doing anything because you just go by from what others say. But as long as you're your own person, guarantee it.
So embrace your own person is what you're saying.
Yes.
I think we need to do that whether we're autistic or not. Would you agree?
Yes.
Khylil.
Yes, and especially when it comes down to autism, it's really hard to do that,
Because everybody's telling you who you should be.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
They're all telling you who you should be. So I've learned a lot of lessons from you today. I want to get up and just give you the biggest hug ever.
I'm sure you want to go for it right now?
Okay. Thank you so much. We hope that you found this information today on Let's Talk very useful. And for more stories like this, please log on to www.onthespectrum.tv. And don't miss an episode by simply subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time on The Spectrum.